Welcome to Short Videos. Today we'll be talking about model analysis. Model analysis is the analysis of a study model using radiographs and proportionality tables and study casts, which help us to estimate the space required by the permanent teeth, and this helps us to estimate whether the child may require an orthodontic treatment or not, and can that be prevented beforehand. So let's begin. There are two types of model analysis: the analysis which can be done in the mixed dentition and the one which can be done in the permanent dentition. There are three factors which basically affect this model analysis: the size of the permanent teeth, the arch perimeter, and the expected changes to happen in the arch perimeter. Let's get into the details of the model analysis. The first is a mixed dentition analysis, which is classified on the basis of radiograph, which may be Nance analysis and Hookawase analysis, proportionality tables, Moyer's analysis and Tanaka-Johnson's analysis, and a combination of both, which is your Stanley and Kerber and Higson-Hohlfather analysis. The first is the Hookawase analysis, which uses a simple formula of true width of primary molar upon the radiographic width of primary molar gives us the true width of premolar upon the radiographic width of premolar. To use this formula, we first need to calculate the mesiodistal width of the primary molar from the study cast. We then need to take a radiograph of the same side and measure the mesiodistal width of the primary molar in the radiograph. We then need to measure the mesiodistal width of the premolar in the radiograph. So we get three values. Substituting these three values in the radiograph, we get the true width of the premolar. So the true width of the premolar is equal to the true width of the primary molar into the radiographic width of the premolar upon the radiographic width of the primary molar. Next is the Nance analysis. The Nance analysis uses the mesiodistal width of the four permanent incisors on the study cast. We then measure the mesiodistal width of the unerupted canine and the premolars of both the sides from the X-rays. We then add up this mesiodistal width of four incisors and the mesiodistal width of the unerupted canines and premolars of both the sides from the X-rays, and we get the space required. We then measure the arch perimeter from the cast using a brass arch wire, which gives us the space actually available in the cast. When we compare the space required and the space available, we get to know that will there be any chances of crowding later on, and can that be prevented right now. Next is the Moyer's analysis, which uses the proportionality tables. Here we measure the mesiodistal width of the four lower incisors. By using this value, we use the Moyer's probability chart and find out the mesiodistal width of 3, 4, 5 of any one segment. We then measure the space available for 3, 4, 5 on the cast of the same segment. And when we compare the space available and the space required, we get to know that whether there will be any chances of crowding or whether the child requires an orthodontic treatment, etc. Next is the Tanaka-Johnson analysis. which is on similar principles of Moyer's analysis but uses a formula. First, we need to measure the mesiodistal width of the 4 lower incisors. We then measure the space available for 3, 4, 5 on either side of the study cast. By using a formula, we calculated the estimated size of 3, 4, 5. The formula is 1/2 of the mesiodistal width of the 4 lower incisors, that is x by 2, plus 10.5 gives us the estimated width of the mandibular canine and premolars in one quadrant. If we use the formula x by 2 plus 11, we get the estimated width of maxillary canine and premolars in one quadrant. When we compare the space available with the estimated space, we can come to know, when we measure the space available and the space required, we can estimate any future orthodontic treatments or expansions to be required in this case. Tanaka and Johnson analysis can be used in both maxillary and mandibular arches. Higson-Ohlfather analysis. Here we measure the mesiodistal width of 2 erupted incisors from the cast. We then measure the mesiodistal width of the unerupted premolars from the radiograph of the same side. We then add up the both values to get a measured value of that segment. This measured value from the probability chart helps us to give the estimated tooth size of that segment of 3, 4 and 5. We can then measure the space available in the arch of that segment of 3, 4, 5 and compare it with the estimated tooth size of 3, 4, 5 from the chart. This comparing will help us know the future of this dentition. The Stanley and Kerber analysis is very similar to the Higson-Ohlfather analysis. The only difference is the standard error of estimate is significantly reduced, and the coefficient correlation of the revised equation was significantly higher than that of the original equation. Except for the standard error of estimate and the coefficient of correlation, all the steps of Stanley and Kerber and Higson-Ohlfather analysis are very much similar. Next, coming to the permanent dentition analysis. We have the Caries analysis or the arch perimeter analysis, the Pond's analysis, Bolton's analysis, Ashley-Hose analysis, Peck and Peck analysis, Linderhart's analysis, Korko's analysis and the Little's irregularity index. First is the Caries or the arch perimeter analysis. Here we measure the arch length using a soft brass wire from the mesial aspect of the first molar to the mesial aspect of the first molar of the other side. We then measure the tooth material, that is the mesiodistal width of the teeth anterior to the first molars, from the second premolar of one side to the second premolar of the other side, and then all these mesiodistal widths are summed up. We then differentiate between the arch length and the tooth material and draw the inference. If this discrepancy or difference is 0 to 2.5 mm, it is minimal tooth material excess and it requires proximal reductions. If it is 2.5 to 5 mm, we may need to extract the second premolar. If it is more than 5 mm, we need to extract the first premolar. Next is the Ashley-Hose analysis. Here we determine the total tooth material. That is, we measure the mesiodistal width from the first molar of one side to the first molar of the other side. We then sum up the values of all these mesiodistal widths and we get a total tooth material. We then determine the premolar diameter. That is, the arch width is calculated from the tip of the buccal cusp of opposite first premolar to the buccal cusp of the other first premolar. We then determine the premolar basal arch width. That is the width from the canine fossa of one side to the canine fossa of the other side. So we get the total tooth material, the premolar diameter and the premolar basal arch width. Using these three things, an inference is drawn. If the premolar basal arch width is less than the premolar diameter, arch expansion is possible. But if the premolar basal arch width is more, then arch expansion is not possible. We then derive a premolar basal arch width ratio. How do we do this? The premolar basal arch width percentage is equal to the premolar basal arch width into 100 upon the total tooth material. If this premolar basal arch width percentage is 37% or less, it requires extraction. If it is 44% or more, it doesn't require extraction, and if it is somewhere in between, it is a borderline case. So in Ashley-Hose analysis, we use three things: the premolar basal arch width, the premolar diameter and the total tooth material. We then also draw a premolar basal arch width ratio by using this formula. And two inferences are drawn about arch expansion and about extraction or a non-extraction case. Next is the Pons analysis. Here we determine the sum of mesiodistal width of all the four maxillary incisors. We then determine the measured premolar value. We then calculate the arch width, which is calculated from the distal pit of the first premolar to the distal pit of the other premolar. We then calculate the measured molar value, that is, it is calculated from the mesial pit of the first molar to the mesial pit of the first molar of the other side. Using these three values, we calculate the premolar value, that is the calculated premolar value and the calculated molar value. The formulas are: the sum of incisors into 100 upon 80 gives us the calculated premolar value, and the sum of incisors into 100 upon 64 gives us the calculated molar value. We then just simply compare the measured premolar value with the calculated premolar value and the measured molar value with the calculated molar value, which tells us the need for expansion. The Linderhart's analysis is very similar to the Pons analysis. Only the formula is changed. The sum of incisors into 100 upon 80, which was a formula in the Pons analysis, is changed to sum of incisors into 100 upon 85. That is the only change in the Linderhart's analysis. Next is the Corcus analysis. In the Corcus analysis, we have two indices, the anterior arch length index and the palatal height index. The anterior arch length index is very much similar to the Pons analysis, but instead of premolars and molars, we here calculate the anteriors, that is, the canine to canine relationship. So first we sum up the incisors and we get a value. We then calculate the measured value from canine to canine. That is, we calculate the width from the canine to canine. We then use a formula. The sum of incisors into 100 upon 160 gives us the estimated or the required value from canine to canine. We then compare these two values, that is the measured value and the calculated value, and if measured value is less than the calculated value, there is a need for expansion. So the anterior arch length index is also very much similar to the Pons analysis, except for premolars and molars it takes canines into inference. The next indice of Corcus analysis is the palatal height index. Here we calculate two things. One is the posterior arch width from the mesial surface of upper first molar to the mesial pit of the occlusal surface of the other first molar. We get a posterior arch width. We then calculate a perpendicular distance from the connecting line between the reference points for posterior arch width to the surface of the palate. And we get a palatal height. We then use a formula, that is a palatal height into 100 upon the posterior arch width. This value gives us the palatal index, which should normally be 42%. If it shows an increased value, the palatal vault is high. If it is a decreased value, the palatal vault is shallow. Next is the Bolton's index. Here we have an anterior ratio and an overall ratio. The overall ratio sums up a sum of maxillary 12 and a sum of mandibular 12. In sum of maxillary 12, the mesiodistal width of all the teeth mesial to the maxillary second permanent molar is measured and summed up. Similarly, for the sum of mandibular 12, the mesiodistal width of all teeth mesial to the mandibular second permanent molar is measured and summed up. This is for the overall ratio. For the anterior ratio, we have a sum of maxillary 6, which is the mesiodistal width of all teeth mesial to the maxillary first premolar, which is measured and summed up. Similarly, for the sum of mandibular 6, the mesiodistal width of all teeth mesial to the mandibular first premolar is measured and summed up. This is for the anterior ratio. Next, we use these values in the formulas. For the overall ratio, we use the formula sum of mandibular 12 into 100 upon sum of maxillary 12. If this overall ratio is less than 91.3%, maxillary tooth material is excess. If it is more than 91.3%, then mandibular tooth material is excess. Similarly, we calculate an anterior ratio, that is the sum of mandibular 6 into 100 upon the sum of maxillary 6. If it is less than 77.2%, maxillary tooth material is excess, and if it is more than 77.2%, mandibular tooth material is excess. Next is the peck and peck analysis. The maximum mesiodistal and the maximal faciolingual dimensions of a mandibular central and lateral incisors are taken into consideration directly in the patient's mouth using a Helios dial caliper. We then use these values and insert it in a formula. the mesiodistal crown diameter in mm upon the faciolingual crown diameter in mm into 100 gives us a index. For a mandibular central incisor, the desirable value is between 88 and 92, and for a lateral incisor, the desirable value is between 90 and 95. Thank you.